G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff. Ukraine War update for the 14th of May 2026. We have seen today over 700 projectiles, predominantly drones, fired at Ukraine. A lot more got through than previous attacks. We see on the map more markers than we usually get, indicating that occasionally the company, Deep State, that runs they're actually called Deep State, the company that runs this website, allegedly is called Deep State. Now, they do have another site, and these are volunteers. I do honestly believe they're based in Canada, but they don't actually tell you all the information about themselves, but they do allegedly rely on volunteers. I reckon most of it is they have a RSS feed from the Ukrainian media relations or whatever at the security SBU. Yeah. So it's hard to hide a large attack like this. They are predominantly scattered around a vast area. Well, as big as Ukraine is, it's still vast. I mean, there's a lot of attacks, and there's also a lot of artillery, as usual. But in some of the areas, there's not much activity. South of Kupiansk, Borva is almost every day, if you haven't noticed. Same with attacks at Lyman, almost every day. Now, west of Seversk, almost every day. But this is an offensive towards Kravdoluka. This is it's the same here. There is an offensive here. The Russians have advanced north of Privilia. Now, some maps have the Russians on this road. I think it changes hands because I've seen other maps where they're not. So I think this area has a lot of back and forth, unlike other areas where it reminds me of the situation at Chavis Yar, where there was a lot of changes to the map. And I think this is settling in. There's a lot of backwards and forwards here right now, but eventually the Russians have control of this road, and this is no man's land, but the Ukrainians are trying to stop them from flanking. But there is a battle for this area, this block area here. I think it is actually a school. But it's predominantly trying to push the Ukrainians out of this area while they try to flank this area. Of course, the regional center, and these two areas would be prime targets. These would be secondary targets as well. Don't forget, Krosnikovia is actually a big conglomeration. It's actually split into, if you notice, it has got a divide that is neither a road or anything. It's just, well, it is a small road, but it's, industrial center, of course. And, of course, you've got the northern part here, the southern part here. Predominantly, though, the Russians have been held back here for some time now. They've been at least a year now bogged down in certain areas. My original prediction was, of course, that Ukraine would be better off bogging the Russians down for 6 months or more. So far, that is sort of true, but it hasn't forced Putin's hand, or the hand of Putin's opposition, I should say, Medvedev and a couple of others still throw their support behind Putin. So a likely victory, of course, for Russia is to not cede territory, but they're going to have to cede some of the territory. The likely scenario is there probably will be a backing off of Kostnikovia if there was a ceasefire agreement to be finalized. I know Russia said no inch, but I think, oops, damn it, I hate when this happens. Alright. Sometimes you accidentally click an ad that you didn't see. Because it's invisible. Yeah, you get invisible ads. You get too close to this ad top up here. Yeah. I think they're going to have to cede some of this territory back to the border, or at least some of it, leaving Kupiansk and Brunovia alone. But Ukraine will have to trade some as well. But the problem is, how much of the Donetsk? Now, Donetsk, Ukraine doesn't want to give up any more territory. And in fact, they want Russia to leave all of it. But what I mean is, in a realistic term, to preserve the rest of Ukraine, they're going to have to, and the same with Russia, split Donetsk. I just don't see in the next 2 to 3 months Russia advancing anywhere near what they advanced. But again, they were bogged down, right? Ukraine had them here. But when their lines collapsed, you remember they got a huge advance up to Pavlovsk, and then the Ukrainians were able to bog them down again. Now, I believe that has got to do with the cycle of troops coming out of NATO. I mean, let's face it, the majority of the Ukrainian army is NATO trained, but they're running out. Now, there's 2 million that they keep talking about. I think they are slowly drawing from that 2 million. They can't get them trained enough. They're getting, but an entire army worth over 100,000. If you're training over 100,000 a year, that's an entire army. There should be 800. There should be 1 million in Ukraine now, outnumbering the Russian army, which is only 6 armies, plus their support logistics is 672,000, 2,000 plus another 120,000 in volunteers from Donetsk and Lugansk, volunteers who engage in anti-drone operations and sky spotting across Ukraine frontier, as well as you've got the various other volunteers and well, a lot of, they are paid, but they are volunteers. They're not, they drone watch, and they have anti-gun drones. Now, anti-drone guns, sorry. Now, this, of course, has expanded out, and it does have the cascade effect of expanding other areas because, roads, just the way they are. But for now, Russia's trying to push out. Now, they have some success, only moderate success in some areas of advancing, but it is nowhere near what you would call success. But once they get control of a second bridge here, and they will begin and start to successfully hold it, they'll divide the Ukrainian troops and then start flanking them. It's what they do. That's why they have what you call a cauldron. Okay, so the Ukrainians don't know which way the Russians are going to come from, and they can come up behind you, and that's it. Once you start losing your control of your supply lines and rear line security, the front line slowly will at first slowly crumble, and then after a few weeks it will completely collapse. So either you'll run out of ammunition or just wake up with some Russian commandos sitting on your chest. This has actually happened to some Ukrainians recently in a trench line near Krasnokovia, where the morning was foggy. The Ukrainian commanders were caught off guard with a Russian attack, and some of the trenches, by the time they realised the Russians were attacking, when they picked up the phone, they were speaking with Russians at the trenches, and they realised that yet again the Russians had come in under the fog of night, taken their little base, forced them back here, and then now what's left of them had to retreat up here. Now, in other areas, there isn't much to report. The Russians shifted their focus, which is weird. Where is it? Let's pull out for a moment. Yesterday, I reported the Russians, the Ukrainians called for general retreat. Here it is. Now, suddenly, after getting the Ukrainians to retreat, or back off, whatever you want to call it, right? And same here. After the Russians retreated, backed off, now the Ukrainians have retreated across this river. They haven't retreated from Nikopol. I don't know why people can't read the news and can't realise this is a Ukrainian map, why they can't watch a video for more than a minute before making up their mind to scream at me. The Russians dug in, right? Dug in across here. They did not cross the river. Okay? They did not attack. Instead, after getting them back off in a couple of areas, they increased their attacks here. And then a short time later, began a massive drone attack operations. The Russians prefer to scare the Ukrainians into retreating, and then they'll dig in, than to actually fight. Now, don't you think that's a good thing? It's a good sign? Or do you prefer watching more Ukrainians die? Because no matter how many Russians you kill, if you're satisfied by that, you're not inclusive, tolerant, or loving of humanity. You really should reevaluate your life if you're sitting there gleefully wanting this war to prolong to kill Russians. Because all you're doing is creating a new wave of animosity, which will eventually come back on you. And you end up with countries like Iran. That's why the animosity in the Middle East has taken so long to die down, because people gleefully watched, let's kill this group and kill that group. And people got gleeful about war because they thought, profits. But then ultimately, no, it did not end well for any of them. There is no winning this war, there's only ending this war. And how it ends, according to Putin, we'll get to that later. But there is no winning this war. And I hate to burst your bubble. I know it sounds like Russian disinformation, but I think Putin was constrained from the start and told he cannot solve this problem by taking over Ukraine. That several Russian commentators have said. They all advised against taking over Ukraine. And between Putin and others, they came up with the special military operation. Now, some of it there's been relaxed, like expanding targets to Western Ukraine. Western Ukraine used to be off limits. Certain people are still off limits, though there is a growing voice amongst Russians that killing Zelensky would at least give them someone. They're hoping to kill. They're hoping not to kill Zelensky. They're just hoping that the threat is that if he does not end the Ukraine war, that they will kill him if there's an opportunity to end the war, or kill him and others in a decisive sweep, and then deal with the Ukrainian opposition, who seem amicable to end the war, but they also want some land concessions to basically say to the Ukrainian people, look, we got some land back. The realistic thing is we've lost X amount of people. Zelensky lied to you all. But right now, the Ukrainian opposition does not have credibility because the European warmongers and the liberal establishment is so busy demonizing Ukrainian opposition that they can't see the forest for the trees, that the liberals are worshipping Zelensky. He's only a man. You're worshipping a false idol. You're worshipping a war god, and war for your own bloodlust, for your own politics, for your own desire to feel like a winner. You want to feel like a winner? Go walk around the block. That's the best winning ever. No competition, no opposition, just succeeding and doing something each and every day. That's better than a war any day. Because if you continue to support wars, wars will eventually come for you. That is a sad fact. It is a reality, and it's an ancient wisdom in every society, in every religion. Those who live by the sword die by the sword. You may not physically get killed by wars, but the eating up ruins your life and may hasten your own demise. I know everybody does die, so a lot of people take the nihilistic approach to life anyway. What a sad way to exist. But speaking of happiness, optimism, and a hopeful future, Empire of Elves, my book series, it's an exploration of power, power dynamics, and wealth, a glimpse at how wealth and power is used and abused, and how quickly public's manipulation proceeds behind the scenes. It's a look, however, into a bright, optimistic future where elves have a star system, rich and prosperous, trying to maintain an existence without war. Empire of Elves, myshopify.com. Now, Russia has attacked Ukraine with over 700 aerial assets. Now, Ukraine has been able to just take over 650, so that's a lot of impacts. Now, they claim to have destroyed 41 missiles. You've got to remember something, and I've seen videos on it. I tried to find videos on it today. A lot of these missiles are electronic decoys. They fly slow, they pump out flares, and they make a lot of noise. Yeah. So, detected assets. Look at that. 41. Yeah. But there's a lot more than 41. And yeah, a lot of cruise missiles. I believe Russia has decided to chip away at Ukraine. And again, these cruise missiles, most of them, I think, the Kinzhals, they're air-launched ballistic missiles. They're hard to shoot down. But the Icekanders, again, it's about, I think there's more to this, but they never tell you, because They don't want you to know the truth. They don't want you to know how bad or how poorly they're doing. They want you to be hopeful and optimistic and supportive of the war. They are manipulative. Every newspaper is manipulative, but when it comes to war, they're mostly manipulative. Now, that's true of the Russians as well. I always remind people that every person does this. They put their best foot forward, and yeah, this is my highlighted Su-25. The Frogfoot. Now, MiG-31 and Su-35 have been the mainstay for the last 20 years of the Russian Air Force. The Su-25 is the deadliest aircraft on the Ukrainian battlefield right now. Most of the F-16s have shot down drones, and that's it. There's been few aerial combats, a couple of Su-27 flakkers, and some MiG-31s have shot down a few of their counterparts in the Ukrainian Air Force. Technically, there is no one who's claimed the downing of the two F-16s. It does appear that they might have been friendly fire, or they were taken down by ground fire. Now, Ukraine claims they both crashed. Yeah. Well, one was actually bombed on the runway, so technically it crashed. Now, yes, a Swedish pilot has allegedly died, but that case has been settled out of court under strict seal. So we'll never find out if that pilot was killed in Ukrainian combat or he was killed on the ground as the pilot or as the trainer for the Ukrainian pilot. But there seems to be no mention of a Ukrainian pilot, which is weird. Now, Su-25 is an old aircraft, and it's got the rear radar emitters, flare poppers, technically mortars or canister ejectors, if you're a gas canister mortar. There it is. It is primarily a single seat, but there are two-seat variants, mostly for training. But there's an e-warfare version as well. That's a two-seater side by side. But I think that has been replaced by the Su-35. But primarily it is a forward ground attack aircraft. And as you can see, they fire primarily 122mm dummy missiles, unguided missiles, but increasingly they are fired guided missiles, and increasingly they have been fitted with anti-SAM technology, primarily electronic warfare jammers. Standard practice to pump flares after you launch airborne as you can see, it carries quite a lot of payload. As you can see, it's got four major and two minor racks. Remember, it does have limited takeoff weight. It's one of the few successful Russian aircraft in the world, and I know they've got a lot of aircraft, but success is not, building them doesn't make them successful. Having a lot of them doesn't make them successful. Now, here's where they go. Now, remember, Russia has been shooting down drones as well. These are gun pods. These are twin. Now, they were twin 23mm cannons. These, I believe, are upgraded to twin 30mm. These are the standard folding fin. They are dummy missiles. They are not guided. They rely on flooding a great area. Now, these old Silverbirds, they do call them Silverbirds, are Soviet-era versions. And there aren't many of them left. And you see, they plug up the ones they don't put, because they don't carry a full load. And they, by the people then the pilot, I guess, decide where missiles go, in what pod, and how many dummies they carry, to ballast and all that, offset the launch. You can carry air-to-air missiles. They have engaged in combat, but primarily they go out just with guns and rockets. Now, a lot of these are built in the last 10 years. I do believe production is rolling up on the current variation, and we'll see what happens from there. But it is a decreasing aircraft in the marketplace. Now we go to Wikipedia, we find out, it's the Su-34 variant, the UB is the two-seat trainer, AM is the target towing, K is the export model. Now, it was developed for close air support, maiden flight 75. Now, it's developed from a number of earlier aircraft, not one single aircraft. It was meant to phase out a number of early designed aircraft, and it's been in service for quite some time. It is one of the few aircraft you can find a lot about how it's built, where it's built, weapons, avionics systems. Originally, it had no TV guidance, but it does have a laser target fighter that has been added. Its Doppler radar and other avionics have been updated. The newer 25TM and Su-3M have even more upgrades. Now, they are talking about completely shutting off, but Sikorsky believe, they don't want to redesignate. They want to make slight changes to the design and continue with a newer model. Whence over 900 combat sorties in the Iran-Iraq War, one of its biggest. In the Gulf War, they were successful in the start for the Iraqis, but eventually all of them were shot down. Azerbaijan, separatists, Georgians, Chechnya, there were shoot downs in Chechnya. This is the thing, you can find out more about these aircraft than most. More in Donbass. This is where we get they were used by Russian separatists. They were under Ukrainians. They were shot down. The Russian rebels lost the airbase eventually, or lost control of it. But some of the aircraft did manage to limp out. But the separatists did. It's the same with the Iraqi offensive and Russian intervention in Syria. Su-35 shot down by MADPADs. There's other wars, in this world. But during the Russian invasion, this is where they've seen the most combat operations. They did, for a while, have air superiority. But for now, the Ukrainians with the F-16s have created a line of demarcation known as a grey zone, which no aircraft will enter because air defences from both sides will shoot at anything in and over the battlefield. That's why Su-35s come up to the line, shoot, and then peel off, flinging flares and chafing as they go. There has been a few Ukrainian and a few Russians shot down on both sides in Su-35s. And there's all these variants. TM, SM, which out of order, I know, because Cyrillic is out of order. But they also deliberately put things out of order. But there is talk of a new, what should we say, specifically anti-drone variant, but there isn't yet a designation. But here we have the Shimovok, the successor to the Su-35. It's a twin-seater. And though the T-12, like all things in the VTOL, the proposal by the Sikorsky Group is to designate this the Su-25 T-12 or Su-25T, or just call it the Shimovok, which is, though a proposed successor, it's a design successor in which eventually, starting in production in 2030, the current models will get bits and pieces of the T-14 for testing, and you might even see some Su-25s in the next 6 months appear with twin tails, further sweeps in the wing, changes to its wing mount. As Russia increases its testing of wings and wing designs, they are looking to improve the tolerance just to get that little bit more speed to reduce resistance. But they want high stability at slow speed for launching guided rockets. They are moving towards 122 guided rockets for airborne. The ground missiles will be 220, and they are looking at intermediate 320 millimeter, similar to American HIMARS, but the Americans outrange them right now. Yet Ukraine has not been able to take advantage of this situation because Russia can leapfrog drones or smuggle drones in to close the distance anyway. And plus they've also been able to get eyes on regular launch sites, figure out their driving patterns, watch the roads, and be alert. So all they have to do is park a drone somewhere way off in the field. If you've got 3 kilometers, you're going to be looking out the window and see a drone 3 kilometers away when the drone's the size of a basketball. These little drones. You're not going to see them. The Ukrainians have no idea they're there. Hundreds launched every day. They're short term. Most of them probably never get recovered. One of these days they're going to be all these broken drones all across the battlefield. The people are scavenging them now, but we'll soon see Ukrainians starting to sell off Russian drones and war memorials. I mean, right now it's governments, but we'll see fragments of drones starting to appear on eBay. Probably banned already. I reported a change a while ago in electronic warfare. Russia claims success. We have yet to see any major impact. Whether or not it is making impact, it's hard to tell because we don't know when Ukraine has launched missiles, how many. So it's hard to say if there's an increase or decrease in success. But in looking at the map, I would say on average, Russia right now is having some success in stopping Ukrainian drones. Not all of course. Never said that. Now, I've said this many times. Now, Russia's taken to using fixed-wing aircraft to shoot down drones. Ukraine will probably do that as well. It's cheaper than jets. And I think we'll see an armed version of the Yak-130 trainer on the battlefield in anti-drone operations. But for now, it appears Su-25, and Russian helicopters on the Russian side, And at the moment, we see on the Ukrainian side F-16s, but increasingly, I think we'll see smaller, more reliable gun platforms being used for long-term, what you would call a race course, where the most probable targets, they'll just fly in an oval in a big over the target cities and just spend the day firing at drones and then landing. So you'd see something like the AC-130 gunship or other interesting aircraft designs, or drones. Drone gun platforms are most likely as well. Now, NATO chief wants to triple the money. Mark Rutte, after several meetings with the Trump and other, has decided that Trump's request wasn't enough, that he wants 0.25% of GDP to go to Ukraine for each and every European country. This, if adopted, will make it law for every country to give money to Ukraine, probably up to for the next 100 years. It will take the entrenched bureaucracy you've seen will continue, of course, to take its cut and its taxes, and there'll be various aid organizations, but this will effectively make aid around 143 billion, which is not over and above the Ukrainian war budget of 127 billion, but it also covers the fact that that's higher than the Ukrainian GDP, which means they'll never get their money back. There's no way Ukraine can offer any. If you took over Ukraine now, you're not going to, there's no benefit to be had. There's no benefit to this war. This is a losing proposition. This is a disaster. The only people who are going to benefit from this, other than Putin, is Zelensky, Yamamek, and a handful of other Ukrainians, a couple of arms dealers. But these European bureaucrats, they're just useful idiots. And actually, he's just an idiot. He's not even useful. Now, the proposals amongst the 7 major European nations is that Ukraine is losing. They've had their frontline collapse, and for whatever reason, Russia did not rush in. Again, I think there's many reasons, but the ceasefire in the conflict has been proposed again by both sides. Russia's response is when Zelensky withdraws his forces from the Donbass, there cannot be any peace talks. I think that's just a negotiating ultimatum. We know Russia is discussing behind the scenes with the United States. China is discussing. India is discussing. Egypt and Turkey. Many BRICS and European countries on both try to put pressure both on Russia and Ukraine to end this conflict. Publicly, of course, Europe is only putting pressure on Russia, but privately they have started negotiating an end to this war. Unfortunately, they've got, short of killing Zelensky, I don't think they've got any way of stopping his bloodlust. You just have to look at his speech. And I know people look at him and say, oh, isn't he so calm and so nice and he's just so thoughtful? And that's the most dangerous kind of con man ever. I don't know why people cannot learn. But that's just the way it is. It's just like there are some lessons the majority just can't seem to learn. One of the most dangerous, and goes for any war, is actually when you think you're winning. This is a very dangerous time for Russia, of course, when you think you're winning. Yeah. Remember when Russia lost how many aircraft to Ukraine? All of them are back in service and 10 more. The Russian Air Force has just unveiled 10 Tu-160s. Previously, Europe said that Russia was only able to build 2 a year. Then they revised that to 2 every 6 months. Russia's just unveiled 10 new Tu-160s built in the last 12 months. And they've also been able to repair half the aircraft Ukraine claimed to have destroyed. And in some of the parts that were salvaged from others, but outright Ukraine only destroyed 2 aircraft. The Russians decided to scrap 8 and replace them with Tu-160s. And it turns out those aircraft were at that base to be prepared to be scrapped and replaced by T-160s. So those T-22s that Ukraine destroyed was merely a huge exercise in propaganda. Now, the Ukrainian agents who were involved in that, other than maybe a handful of planners, none of them, the 4 who launched those drones were shot. The 2 drivers, they're in prison, most likely not going to get out ever. The smugglers who got the drones in, other than the innocents who were carrying them in their parcels, those parcels have been tracked. I don't know how many. The Russians have arrested over 100 of the 120 involved in that operation. The rest are either back in Britain or Ukraine, thanking their lucky stars they got out. The rest never made it. People are dead for Zelensky's pride, and it made no difference to the war. And and this goes for Russia too, most operations, special operations are high, unless you get a high value target like a general or destroy 20 or so tons of ammunition or whatever. Most of these are pinpricks. Most of these are pinpricks. It's an unfortunate situation in war where you plan an operation and hope for the best, and you usually get the worst. So that's the reality of war. It's brutal, it's honest, but war does not decide who's the best. Nor does debating, because most people can't debate. They just throw insults, make assumptions, and they have nothing to back it up with. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. Appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.